Hello out there in your Own Your Inner Authority Facebook group. I am so excited to be here. I'm just going to pull up my notes so I don't forget anything today. Hi out there. I am just feel so super blessed to be here today and talk all about the gut-brain connection. I just love Melissa and love the idea of this group of owning your inner authority and truly shining from the inside out and finding your life's purpose. So I love everything about that. And when it comes to really diving into our purpose and diving, really when we're doing all this inner work, we want to make sure that, and when I'm talking about inner work, I'm talking about all the kind of the stuff that Melissa's doing with you guys with finding purpose, and all of that kind of stuff. Um, it's important to really kind of check out what's going on in our tummies and talk about kind of that gut-brain connection that's happening. And so that we, and looking at sort of the links and things physically that may be going on with us that actually are blocking us emotionally from really thriving and moving forward with that. So that's why I'm here today, and that's why Melissa and I very much really resonated well with talking about the gut and talking about how much it affects our beautiful brains in a positive and sometimes a negative way. So it's good to really explore that and understand those connections and understand how powerful our tummies are. Hi, Melissa. I'm so happy to be here as well. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Heather Woodruff, and my company is Heather Woodruff Nutrition, and I support lovely humans to live wild and IBS-free through deep digestive healing. So what this means is that what this means is that I help women, mostly women I work with, to really help stop just managing their digestive symptoms, but actually dig deep to the root cause and really start healing within. So it's something that they leave in the past and not just something they simply manage and make do with. So hello there, hi Anna. Nice to have you here. Yeah, before I get into kind of the whole gut-brain connection, I really nerd out on this topic because it's so powerful, and the research that's going on right now supporting this gut-brain connection is so unbelievably powerful. And I think it's amazing when, this is something that ancient wisdom has been talking about, the Ayurveda connection with the gut and its overall effects in the body have been long, they've been doing this for millions of years. Whereas, science is just kind of catching up to ancient wisdom. And I love when that happens because I love actually taking both into consideration when it comes to health and well-being. I love looking at ancient wisdom, but I also love looking at the newest research that comes out. So it's so amazing when we see that catch up happen with science, with our ancient wisdom. So there's so much research backing this. So it's like every day there's coming out with a new study looking at the gut-brain connection and just how amazing it is and how powerful our digestive tract is and how it really is the core of our health and well-being. And in Chinese medicine, they call our digestive tract our earth. And when I heard that, I just found that so incredibly beautiful that is our earth. It's like the soil that grows everything, and the power of that is essential to pretty much the whole body. So yeah, pretty incredible. So Melissa posted this, but definitely, yeah, if you, say hi as you pop in, and even if you have questions, definitely please post them below as I go along. I'm happy to answer them. And even if you're watching the replay of this afterwards, please just tag me in a comment or tag me in a comment or a question or anything like that. Hi, Michelle. And I'm happy to even come back after the fact and answer them. So thank you for those that are hopping in now. I kind of just gave a little intro just so I can give people a few minutes to hop in here. And also make sure I did put up in the description field, I'll post in the comments below as well, just so sometimes it's easier for people to grab it there. So I'll quickly do that. Can I comment here? Oh, it's not letting me comment. I can't comment right now. I'll comment it afterwards, but there is a 3-day meal plan. It's called the 3-day meal plan to calm IBS flare-ups. And it's not just for people with an IBS diagnosis or if you happen to be going through a flare-up or not. It is pretty much the most digestive healing 3-day meal plan on the planet, if I do say so myself. It is incredibly powerful. I've seen it do some powerful things with the gut. So if you feel like your gut needs a pick-me-up, or if you have ongoing digestive issues or whatever that means, doesn't mean you need an IBS diagnosis, but if you have ongoing issues with your tummy, then definitely make sure you pick up that meal plan. Again, it's up in the description of this Facebook live right now, so make sure you hit that up now, or do it afterwards after we're done here today. So I'm going to get into talking about the gut-brain connection. I'm so excited about this. So I'm going to first kind of talk about some really, really interesting connections with the gut and other disorders that have been noted scientifically. So I'm going to talk about IBS first, and about 60% of individuals who have an IBS diagnosis also report varying degrees of depression and anxiety. So 60 to 70% of people with IBS also have varying degrees of anxiety and depression, which is a pretty substantial number when you think about it. And they say correlation doesn't equal causation, but that's something that I go, interesting about. Another interesting disorder is that Parkinson's disease, which is a neurological disorder. One of the first symptoms of Parkinson's disease is chronic constipation. And this link is so much so that they're actually pumping a substantial amount of money into research in this area of looking at chronic constipation and what exactly about that then seems to lead then later on into Parkinson's disease, which is super, super fascinating. IBS is irritable bowel syndrome. Thanks so much for pointing that out, Melissa. I get caught up in my acronym world sometimes, and I forget that not everyone may be on the digestion lingo. So thanks so much for pointing that out. Another really interesting connection is in the world of autism. And one of the most common secondary conditions associated with autism is gastrointestinal disorders. So different varying degrees of leaky gut and diarrhea and constipation and bloating and all that kind of stuff. Many people, or children or adults with autism, often will notice a lot of GI discomfort as well along with their autism. So pretty powerful. And then something else that's really interesting is that there are actually a substantial amount of psychological side effects that have been reported after taking antibiotics. So antibiotics, as you may or may not know, kill off, bacterial infections that we may have going on within the body, but they also kill off the microbiota the beneficial microbiota that lives within our gut or our colon. So when this gets killed off in our gut, we notice sometimes that we can have psychological side effects from the antibiotic use. So again, so many crazy connections, and this is just tipping the iceberg about some things that when we notice gut issues also affecting other issues and leading to other disease and imbalances within the body. So I'm just tipping the iceberg here, but these are some of the more powerful ones that I like to bring up and just chat about and note, just to highlight this connection and how so much of this is all linked up together. I'm going to take a sec to tell an amazing story about a client of mine. And this client's name is Karen. And she came to me halfway through last year, I believe. And she was one of my more powerful gut-brain connections that I've probably ever seen, which is why I share this story. She was a mama of 3, beautiful, beautiful woman. But what was going on with her was that she, had some mild digestive issues, but nothing crazy that I would say I've definitely seen crazier. But definitely she noticed like bloating just on a fairly daily basis was kind of her biggest concern with digestion. But her big health concern was that she was really depressed. And she had really struggled to even just get out of bed in the morning and to be motivated to do anything, to really help with their kids. And I almost like tear up telling the story because I remember talking to her that first appointment and how she just talked about how she hated her children, her 3 little children, seeing their moms like that when a year or 2 ago she was, riding mountain bikes with them and was the hockey mom in the stands cheering like crazy. And within a few years, something happened that she just turned into this mom that couldn't get out of bed. And it was really actually really frustrating for her and really hard on her. And from one of the health standpoint, and then one for trying to be this amazing, mama that we all. I have a 3-year-old as well, so that mummy guilt can come in pretty darn hard on us when we feel like we're not measuring up and not really standing up and doing what we needed to do. So I didn't even, there's lots of protocols that we can look at for focusing in on brain health and all of that kind of stuff. But what I focused on with her, which is obviously my specialty, is the gut. Even though there wasn't really severe digestive issues, she did keep talking about this bloating that she would get almost after every single meal. And so we dug deep and we looked into some healing protocols. She had a really strong candida infection within the gut. And so we did some diet revamping, went on, really rebalancing that microbiome and decreasing the candida and increasing the beneficial microbiota within her gut. And I'm going to say within a few months, she was starting to feel like herself again. Even sooner than that, I actually have her little file up. She said her specific quote was, in as little as 2 weeks, I was feeling more normal again. And then within 4 weeks, I was feeling like myself again. And so it just shows how powerful that we didn't even work on the brain. I didn't even start getting into that realm of things. Oftentimes I'll focus on the gut, see what clears up, and then if there's any lingering stuff going on, we'll focus on that. But it was just such a powerful story of just how powerfully we can benefit our brains when we do focus on that gut healing and what we can see happen there. So Karen is doing amazing now. I still keep in touch with her. I'm pretty connected to my amazing clients. So she's doing so amazing now. She's rocking it in the ringette. Her daughters play ringette and her son plays hockey, and she's just rocking it and jumping out of bed and having, just living such a much more fulfilling, amazing life from really looking at healing the gut. So I'm going to get more into the connections between the specific, like looking at the connections between our gut and our brain, and looking at specifically right now, I'm going to talk about the nerve connections. So there's a few different ways that our gut and brain connected, and this one is more physical. This talks about the physical nerve connection that happens between our guts and our brain. And many people don't know this, but there are about 200 to 600 million nerve cells in our gut. So this is why our gut can sometimes be called our second brain in the medical field. It's often that term is used because there is so many of these nerve cells that actually exist within the gut, when many people feel like those mostly happen within the brain. There is also a direct nerve connection between our brains and our gut called the vagus nerve. And this vagus nerve connects directly from our brain, I think it passes through a portion of the heart and then goes right into the gut, this vagus nerve. And they initially thought back in the day that this nerve, this vagus nerve, was responsible for the brain telling the gut what to do and making it do its thing and digest and do all of that amazingness. And what they discovered was that over time that they found this out through some procedures where they would use to actually cut the vagus nerve. They would cut the vagus nerve and find that the digestive tract would actually function no problem or the digestive tract would function no problem without the vagus nerve. So they realized over time through different studies that the vagus nerve's primary role, about 80% of its role, was to transmit information from the gut to the brain. So, and not the other way around, which is pretty incredible. So it definitely still lots, there's still 20% that does come down from the brain to the gut, but the majority of that, a good solid 80% goes from the gut up to the brain. So pretty incredible that that's that primary job for that role. And the nerve talks to, or the gut talks to the brain more than the brain talks to the gut, which is pretty incredible. So oftentimes I see people when I'm dealing with people with chronic tummy trouble, people will often ask me, if they have like some emotional imbalances like their depression, anxiety, can that cause digestive upset? Can high stress cause digestive upset, or is it digestive upset that causes, emotional imbalances? And it's definitely a bit of both. So oftentimes people will notice that when they're in high stress situations, or when they're in high stress situations, that they will notice their tummy get really upset. And sometimes they will notice, when their tummy's upset, then their brain starts, as a secondary, starts going foggy and things. So it's definitely a bit of both. So it's kind of important to notice what came first for you or not. But regardless, we treat the gut first. That's where we go first. I'm going to look back at some contents. Melissa says wellness is not, or comments. Melissa says wellness is not just the absence of disease. It leads to more joy in our lives. Oh my gosh, I love that. I was just talking to somebody recently about when people say they're feeling fine. It's like, no, we don't want to just be fine and be absent of disease. We want to actually be thriving and living this amazing life, wild and free. So I love that you say that. It's more than absence disease. Absolutely. And Anna says, I just read that fact about the nerve cells. Amazing. Yeah, I know. So I can't believe, like, that's a lot of nerve cells, 200 to 600 million nerve cells. Super powerful. Just going to double check time and make sure I'm good. Awesome. So I'm going to talk next about the biochemical connections that happen. So this gets a little more hormonal and chemical within the body, not so much like physical things, but also lots of, this is just as powerful, even though it's not physical. The chemical connections within our body just make all the reactions go. And one of the biggest ones that we see happening here is our serotonin. So our serotonin is our feel-good hormone. This is what, makes us happy, or, it's, I don't know what else to call it other than our feel-good hormone. That's what I like to call it. And 90% of it is actually produced in our gut, in the microbiota of our gut. So that's incredible that's our feel-good hormone. The majority of it is produced in the gut. Another powerful thing to notice is that serotonin is the precursor for melatonin, which is our sleep hormone. So sometimes if we have sleep issues like insomnia and things like that, could potentially be related back to our chronically inflamed tummies. Super powerful. Oops, I jumped ahead in my notes a little bit. There we go. And then I talked a little bit briefly a few minutes ago about the microbiota, and I use that term lots because it's such a key component with our gut. And our microbiota is the beneficial bacteria that resides within our colon. There's other things in there. There's yeast and little viruses and things like that, but it's primarily bacteria and others. And that microbiota is responsible for so many things when it comes to our health and well-being. It produces B vitamins, which is essential for our energy and for our drive to want to go, and fatty acids as well, which is also a part of energy, and then amino acids. And all three of these things, our B vitamins and fatty acids and amino acids, are all really essential for brain health. So if our microbiota are not producing these elements, then our brains aren't getting as much fuel. So our brains aren't getting as much of the essential nutrients as we need if our gut is not in its happy place. And cortisol, which is a stress hormone, And when our body is stressed, it releases cortisol. And what cortisol does is it actually increases and causes little leaks in the intestines. So the more often that we are chronically stressed, and a little bit of stress is good. It's good to keep us like motivated and pushed and moving forward in life. But when we are chronically stressed on a day-to-day basis, our intestines are chronically leaking, leading to something called leaky gut, which increases our food sensitivities and lots of digestive inflammation. I have a whole talk on leaky gut, so I won't get too much into that one. But that's just another element that chemically how our guts and brains are connected. And that one specifically looks at how the brain can affect our gut that way. So that's why I love bringing that one up as well. Melissa says, so many systems interacting with the gut. I know, and I'm just even tipping the iceberg here. Like, I'm definitely just kind of picking out the ones that I find most relevant, that I feel like people will most resonate with. But there's so many different ways that our gut can be, cause lots of imbalances going on, and how it's just all connected. And I'm a certified nutritional practitioner. That's my background, which is more holistic nutrition component. And I think that's why I always resonated with this style of medicine, is because it just talks so much about the connections of the body. And I see it so much on a regular basis about the connections. You know, we see hormonal balancing going on in the gut. We just, you know, there's sleep happening, the stuff with that, and high cholesterol, you know, sometimes that can be linked back to the gut. So there's just so many different things that we see start to resolve, and health issues resolve, when we start really looking at the gut. You can tell this is my baby. I love talking the gut, and I love talking about this connection for sure, and all the different things that happen here. Hi, Julie says she's sorry she's late. No problem, Julie. You're welcome to post any questions below, and go back afterwards after we're done, and definitely listen to the beginning, but absolutely no worries. So those are all the different connections. We talked about a ton. I'm not going to go too much into those ones to go too much further, because I feel like that's definitely a lot. But I just want to talk for a minute about what digestive imbalance looks like, because I think a lot of people get used to sort of their normal, and that's not always ideal, like, because we kind of just get used to how maybe our body is, and we don't really understand how good it can feel when our digestive tract is truly thriving. So what digestive imbalance looks like is, if you are someone who always says, like, I've always been that person with a touchy tummy, like that's something that you say all the time, or you do have ongoing digestive issues that you haven't been able to resolve, like gas and bloating and constipation. And constipation is, in the functional medicine world, constipation is not having a bowel movement every single day. Ideally, we want to be having a bowel movement every single day, and that's how in the functional medicine world, what that looks like. This might be soft stools for you, or diarrhea, or we talked about the gas and the bloating, but even just cramping, like abdominal cramping or pain, or things that happen. When I was in my past IBS days, though I notice how I say past, I often, by the end of the day, would look like I was about 5 months pregnant, even though I was not, which was super frustrating. So stuff like that, those are things that we notice a lot when it comes to digestive imbalance. But we also notice some other maybe not so obvious things, like emotional imbalance, like depression and anxiety. And I talked about my client Karen's case at the beginning, where she had so much amazing results from when we were just looking at the gut and nothing else. We also notice poor immune systems. So about 75% of our immune system resides within the gut. And so this is where our gut is trained, or our body's immune system is trained up. And when our gut isn't functioning optimally, our immune system isn't functioning optimally. So we often see things like, if you're chronically sick, if you're that person that like will always get the cold or the flu, or get more than like 1 or 2 a year, this is definitely something to look at for sure. Autoimmune disorders. So autoimmune disorders are celiac disease, they are MS, there's different, oh my gosh, I'm drawing a blank on a few of them going forward right now, but yeah, like anything within an autoimmune issue. There's hypothyroid, there's different ones, Hashimoto's, things like that with the thyroid. Different autoimmune disorders can be digestive, also linked back to digestive imbalance, just with that immune connection. 75% of the immune system is in the gut. So autoimmune disorders are your body attacking itself. And so the immune system has gotten confused or gone astray in some way. So we oftentimes will look at the gut when it comes to healing in that regard. You may also see with digestive imbalances intense carb or sugar cravings, for sure. If you're someone that craves sugar, craves bread, craves pasta, like extensively, like if it's like, yeah, that's my go-to and I definitely feel it, those are definitely signs of more digestive imbalance and potentially just microbiota imbalance, the good and bacteria within the gut getting imbalanced. So that's kind of what digestive imbalance can look like. And I don't know if anyone that's watching definitely can resonate with that a little bit or just kind of gets used to their normal, but it definitely doesn't have to be here forever. I've seen people come back with some pretty incredible healing results from doing some digestive healing. And oftentimes we can see different food sensitivity symptoms and things like that start to resolve and lots of amazingness happen. What emotional imbalance can look like when it's linked up with the gut is we do see signs sometimes of depression and anxiety. I often will talk to women who talk about brain fog. And if you're curious what that is, you probably don't have it, but if you have it, you're probably nodding going like, oh yeah, brain fog. Even poor memory, kind of like poor short-term memory, insomnia, and any other kind of like mood disorders that may show up. So these are lots of different ways that the gut and the brain are connected, and what emotional imbalance looks like, and what digestive imbalance looks like, and how they kind of go together. And yeah, I think I'm gonna leave. I think that's kind of leaving to just talking about. I just definitely wanted to make sure I talked about the connection, so you guys understood how powerful it was. For those of you that kind of tuned in afterwards, definitely make sure that if you have any questions, post them below and definitely comment. Anna says, who doesn't know brain fog? I get it. When my 3-year-old was not sleeping, I felt like I lived like my first like year and a half of her life in brain fog for sure. But these are and that was more due to lack of sleep, but definitely it can be just people don't realize it's there. I had one client last year who was she told me she didn't realize she had brain fog until we started healing her gut, and we specifically were pinpointing her unique gut triggers. She had some food sensitivities and things like that. So when we were looking at that, when we started healing that up, she said it was like the fog lifted, and she had no idea that she actually even really had a lot of brain fog until it lifted. And she's like, oh my God, the world just seems brighter, and I'm able to think more clearly, and the sky is bluer. And so it was super powerful for her, which is why I say sometimes we get really used to our normal and don't realize how good we feel. Yeah, definitely let me know if you guys have any questions. And if you tuned in afterwards before my kind of intro part, again, my name is Heather Woodruff, and I am a certified nutritional practitioner who is specializing in deep digestive healing. That's all I do. I'm going to say pretty much. It is all I do. That's all I see. And make sure, for those of you guys, to make sure you grab the 3-day meal plan for IBS, to calm IBS flare-ups, up at the top of the description of the Facebook Live. Not just for people with IBS, but just a really powerful 3-day meal plan that you can use. I had a client just in the summertime where we did lots of gut healing, and then she went to Mexico and ended up with traveler's diarrhea, food poisoning, which kind of undid a lot of what we did. But I put her on this meal plan actually for 7 days, and it really jump-started her back, and she was back up and rolling again, which was amazing. So it is pretty incredible. Anna says, what are your thoughts on the effects of fasting on the gut biota? Ooh, fabulous question. So there is some new research coming out about this, and this is kind of what the holistic world has been touting for a little while, is that when we live in this constant state of snacking, if there's always kind of food going into our mouth, our body's always digesting, and that's definitely a lot of work. But there's this magic that happens in the in-between time, between the times we're eating, that's usually around three, if there's like a good 3 to 4 hour span, and I'm drawing a blank of the actual clinical name. I think it's a really big, long name, but it's actually like almost like your digestive tract is actually like flushing through, and it's flushing through new gastric juices, moving things doing some housekeeping, and doing some amazing kind of healing and rebuilding and flushing things out, and keeping the microbiota really, really happy and fed and whatnot. And so it is important in terms of digestive healing and even digestive health in general to make sure that our gut has that time and space for that. And I kind of talked about, like a 3 to 4 hour span between our meals, but then also times there can be that time of a little bit of fasting. So oftentimes I'll recommend to clients that if you have your meal, if you're having your meal at 6 o'clock, then you're not eating again until your breakfast the following morning at 6:37. So you're giving yourself a good solid 12 to 14 hours in between that last meal to the breakfast in the morning. Some people can stretch that out a little bit further, but when our microbiota is imbalanced, it's actually our blood sugar ends up being really imbalanced, and it's kind of hard to do that without getting crazy hangry. But it's really helpful for giving the digestive tract a break. A lot of energy and reserves from our body go into digesting, which is important. It's a really important aspect of our health. We can't function if we don't eat, and if we're not eating, we're not absorbing amazing goodness. But it is important to give our body that space a little bit. That being said, if you are hungry, make sure that you eat. Don't just be like, I'm fasting, and fight through it. Having our blood sugar drop dangerously low when you feel shaky or hangry or getting headaches and things like that also increases the cortisol in our body, which then creates leakiness in the intestines and inflammation. So it's sometimes that fasting stage can come a little bit later after some gut healing and some microbiota in rebalancing, if that makes sense. And make sure, let me know if that answers your question on it, or if you had something specific, a little more specific that you wanted me to address with that. But such a valid point. I can tell that you know some stuff about the gut, and definitely know some things, which is amazing. Yeah, let me know if that was good, or if there's any other questions that come up. If not, I may sign off and not keep you guys further. Thanks to those of you that tuned in live today, to Anna, to Melissa, to Julie. There was one more person in here. I remember from the beginning. Michelle. There's Michelle. I think I got you guys all. Yeah. Thanks so much for tuning live. It was so great, and such great questions and comments from you guys. I love it. So again, if anything comes up afterwards, or if you're watching the replay, don't hesitate to comment below. And don't forget to grab your 3-day meal plan. Make sure you grab that baby and take advantage of it for sure. So I think I will, Michelle says, thank you. You are so welcome, Michelle. Thank you so much for sharing your time with me. And thank you to all of you guys for sharing space with me and allowing me to come into your amazing group. What a beautiful space that Melissa has created for you guys here. It's so, so good. And perhaps we'll see you another time. Maybe we'll chat some more sometime. So yeah, I'm gonna sign off and say goodbye now. So have a great day, and happy Tuesday, everyone.